Good morning and welcome. Good morning and welcome to Sarah Slattery, legislative candidate from District 2. Thank you, Sarah, for joining us for our virtual legislative candidate meetings. My name is Gina Ragland, and joining me today are AARP lead advocacy volunteers, Susan DeCamp, Joyce Beck, and Danny DeLong. Emily Wick is also joining us today to assist with some of the technical details for the program. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and will be shared with AARP members across your district prior to the election. Sarah, we appreciate your taking the next 30 minutes of your time to meet and discuss issues of importance to the 50+ voter and their families in your district and across Nebraska. As a little bit of background, AARP is the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering and strengthening people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. As people live longer, healthier lives, we know we need to think differently about what it means to age. So Sarah, if you want to start us off by giving us a little background about yourself and your campaign, and have a goal of about 5 minutes or less on that, that would be great. And once we've completed your opening, we'll move into the questions. So with that, Sarah, I'll throw it back to you.
Okay, well, hello. Thank you for having me. Again, I'm Sarah Slattery. I am running for legislature in Legislative District 2, which is all of Cass County and then a little bit of Lancaster County, including part of Lincoln. I am the working class candidate in my race. I am a professional chef. I opened a vineyard and wine tasting room with my folks about 15 years ago in rural Cass County. I'm the chef there. We do weddings, we do live music, we have glamping. We were the original glamping destination in the state. I'm a single mom to a 12-year-old 7th grader. And just at the end of last school year, I resigned my position. I was the school nutrition director at the small school that my daughter goes to in Plattsmouth for several years, which is really just a fancy name for a lunch lady. So I went in there with my culinary background and revamped that hot lunch program, brought back scratch cookery, brought in a fresh fruit and vegetable bar. And then over the last couple years, through the pandemic, the federal government was providing universal free school meals for all kids. So I got to see firsthand how incredible that was for the students and for the families, to not have to worry about packing lunches and paying their lunch bill and things like that. And so that's one of the reasons why I decided to run. I want to try and continue that, since the federal government isn't doing it, find a way that we can maybe at the state level step up and help at least subsidize some of these meals, because it's a really low cost, high reward endeavor to feed kids, I think. So that's a big part of my campaign, my platform. And then the rest of my platform is based around helping working class families and folks kind of thrive. I know that we are underrepresented in the legislature because of the way that it's set up, and the pay is so low that it kind of keeps regular folks like myself from being able to be in where these decisions about our lives are being made. It kind of reserves that those senator seats for people that can afford to not work for 4 months, and either they're retired and independently wealthy, or have a lot of means other ways. But I'm lucky in that I have this family business that's largely seasonal, so I would be able to go down and help legislate for a while and still come back and have a job and be able to support myself and my family. So that's why I decided to jump in the race, because I have the ability to do so, and the voice to represent working folks. And I think it's about time that we get some representation in there. So I guess that's a decent introduction.
Perfect, Sarah. Thank you for the introduction and your bio, and of course your background, and most importantly, thank you for letting us know, where you stand on your issues and such. We appreciate that as part of your campaign. We have provided you with a set of 3 issues containing 4 questions that pertain to the 50+ in Nebraska. And again, looking to allot 5 minutes for each of those just because of our time constraints. So our first question this morning is on health, caregiving, and home and community-based services. And Susan DeCamp is going to take that. So Susan, go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning.
It's nice to meet you, and thanks for spending time with us today.
Absolutely.
Home and Community-Based Services, also known as HCBS, provides an array of services to help people with their daily living activities, which promotes independence and allows them to age in place in their own homes and communities, and delays institutional care. Family caregivers also provide care for someone who's not able to live independently. These caregivers are family members, friends, or even acquaintances who often provide this care without pay. Telehealth services can be significant for seniors, particularly in rural areas and underserved communities, and they can also provide support to family caregivers by reducing travel, wait times, and costs associated with caregiving. So along those lines, we have two questions for you. The first question is, what will you do to support the 240,000 family caregivers in Nebraska through policies such as enhanced respite services, access to telehealth, caregiver education and training, and help with out-of-pocket expenses? And the second question is, what will you do to protect and/or expand the Home and Community-Based Services program, particularly in the area of recruitment and retention of a sufficient workforce and adequate funding of the services that Nebraskans and their families rely on?
Okay, well, that was
A mouthful.
yes. Well, I think that it is really, really important to continue and encourage these services and support these home-based caregivers and family caregivers in any way that we can. My daughter's dad was the caregiver for his father for the last several years of his life, and I saw just like that's a really big burden to place on somebody. I'm gonna get emotional, but so yeah, offering those people the support and resources that they need, because that is a really, really difficult thing to have to do. And then especially when it's your loved one, it's even harder because it's your family member and you really want to do the best you can. So giving people the support and resources that they need to be able to continue that, and then to allow folks to age with dignity in their own home. And because it's more affordable. I know that these senior living facilities and assisted living facilities are really, really expensive. And not everybody has the money to afford them. And so, yeah, I think that it is really, really important that we can support maintaining these programs in any way that we can with legislation that would help with giving them more resources, giving them better funding. I think paying people appropriately for the work that they do is really, really important. That's how we ensure that we get, people, good quality people that are going to be doing the best possible job. It's if we pay people the way we appreciate what they do, I think that that goes a long way. And I firmly believe that anybody that works 40 hours a week shouldn't be living anywhere near the poverty level. So if we can alleviate some of that stress and burden of these folks taking care of our aging population, having to worry about making ends meet, that's going to give them better focus on their job and less stress at home. And I think that is really important. Because we want these folks to be doing the best job that they possibly can, and if we can help them in other ways at home and things like that, then they're gonna have better focus when they're at work. And what was the second part of the question? It was workforce retention, right?
Right.
So again, paying people appropriately is the best way to get those positions filled. But also we need to get people moving back out to these rural areas. And I think that the best way that we can possibly do that is by expanding broadband high-speed internet access across the state, because young people it's become such a necessity. I mean, we're using it right now for this interview. It's become such a necessity to have to be able to maintain a regular everyday life. And a lot of these places out in rural Nebraska, and even to be honest, my folks' vineyard, which is halfway between Lincoln and Omaha, they have to have satellite internet. So it's not even, and you would think, but by now we would have it there, and we don't. And satellite internet isn't really reliable. So that's what keeps these younger folks migrating to the cities or migrating out of the state. And then we don't have the workforce to fill these positions that need to be filled. I know in the last few months, there were, I think, 3 senior living facilities in Lexington that closed, which leaves maybe none left. And so those folks that are from Lexington that are aging now have to be shipped off to somewhere further away, that's further away from their families. And I don't think that that's a good thing. So we need to, yes, pay them better. We need to get better internet access, and then also just maybe make it fostering a more welcoming environment in the state of Nebraska for a diverse group of folks and marginalized individuals, so that they feel comfortable moving out to some of these rural places and taking care of our elderly. So I hope that answered the scope of the question.
Oh, great. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you for sharing your personal story. I know caregiving stories, they retch at your heart. So thank you for sharing that, because that those are hard sometimes to talk about.
Yeah.
Our second question now will come from Joyce Beck, and we're going to switch gears and talk about nursing facility quality. Go ahead, Joyce.
Yeah, good morning, Sarah, and thank you so much for taking your time to meet with us. Over 20,000 Nebraskans require care in nursing facilities or assisted living communities. Facilities have closed their doors, citing reimbursement challenges and staffing shortages. Nebraska will need an additional 4,700 more nursing assistants, LPNs, and RNs by 2028 to meet Nebraska's care needs. Everyone, regardless of where they reside, deserves to be treated with dignity and respect and have access to quality medical care. Better staff to resident ratios improve overall quality of care and the well-being of residents. Workforce recruitment, retention, and job satisfaction challenges are prevalent across the long-term care services and support industry. Causes of workforce challenges must be identified and implemented to respond to the growing need for high-quality care. So, Sarah, here's my question to you. What will you do to improve the quality of nursing facility care for Nebraska residents, including the growing long-term care workforce crisis in the state, professional education and training, and accountable facility reimbursement?
Well, like I addressed in the last question, I think that the number one best way to get more people working in those positions is to pay them appropriately for their work. So, I know there's a minimum wage raise ballot initiative. I think that will help get some folks into these kind of jobs. And then I think, enticing people into these training programs, whether it be with bonuses or things like that to get them in the doors in the first place. I think that that's appropriate. And then also, I know that we were facing some issues in our state with reciprocity, with recognizing licenses from other states. So I think cutting some of that red tape so that healthcare professionals that are living in other states that maybe have a higher cost of living or higher inflation that want to move to the good life and have a little bit more affordable living experience. I think that we should make it, if they're already trained and have a license, I think we need to make it easier for them to come in and get right to work. So I think that that's another thing that we could address, because we have this workforce shortage epidemic, but we also have really, really low unemployment. So the fact of the matter is we just don't have the people here to fill these jobs. So we need to be able to lure them here with promises of the good life, but then also make it easier for them to get right to work when they get here. I think that, yes, we need to look at the way we reimburse and we fund these things, because taking care of our aging populations is of the utmost importance, and we want the best quality candidates filling these positions. So I think that, yeah, all of these things, I mean, it comes down to money most of the time. But I think that this is one of the most important things for us to be spending our money on. We can't, neglect and forget our aging population, because they are, the backbone of our communities. So.
Well, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. Our third and final question for discussion today centers around livable communities and helping people stay in their home. And Danny DeLong is going to take that one. So go ahead, Danny. Danny, I think you're on mute.
Good morning, Sarah. I'm going to use one of your phrases to kick off the question here. So AARP Nebraska, or AARP National, has polled many times over the last few years and has found that the good life, there you go, the good life for over 75% of the people that were polled is to age in place. It's to live in their home as long as they possibly can. If they can no longer live in their home, then live in their community for as long as they possibly can. And so those are goals. They're significant goals for people over the age of 50. And we think that people that want to live in their own home, live in their own community, are entitled to live in what's called a livable community. And livable communities have a few characteristics that are important for us. One is they need to be safe and secure. So that community needs to have a significant safety and security infrastructure. Another is affordable housing. It's not going to work for people to live in their community if housing isn't affordable. They'll need options, and other people around them will need options. They also, third feature is transportation. We need to have transportation in our communities that allow people to travel by multiple means and kind of at their will, if possible. The fourth is supportive community services. And when we talk about that, we talk about that for all people of all ages. And they are access to healthcare and what you mentioned earlier, high-speed broadband internet service. Those are critical. Affordable transit options are critical to support older Nebraskans. As we just said, high-speed internet should be affordable, reliable, and accessible for all Nebraskans. Digital skills development is also essential to obtaining the benefits of high-speed internet access. Digital skills development, not just in how to operate digital devices, but to actually operate them with some sense of digital literacy, so that the internet can do what people want it to do for them. So my question then is, what will you do to ensure that all Nebraskans, mainly those 50 plus, have access to livable communities which offer affordable housing, diverse transportation options, and adequate health care and affordable, reliable, and accessible high-speed internet, including digital literacy development?
Okay, well, I mean, I think these all kind of tie into each other. So again, yeah, getting the high-speed internet would get more folks out to these areas, which would then in turn bring about more public services such as transportation and transit options, I think. But that's a hard egg to crack in some of these really rural Western Nebraska type places that are really spread out and So yeah, I don't really know the answer for helping folks in those communities with like multiple transit opportunities. But I know that there are programs in place to help folks get to doctor's appointments in hospitals and things like that. So making sure that our whole state is covered with those kind of programs would be really, really important. Affordable housing, oh, goodness. Well, if we could keep these corporations from out of state from coming in and buying up all the affordable houses in neighborhoods, that would be really great. Because I know that happened in North Omaha, and it basically, whatever that company is now the third largest landlord in the city of Omaha. And that has kept how many people from being able to afford to buy a house and create generational wealth and a place that they can, retire and continue to live affordably. So we need to look into ways of maybe regulating that so it doesn't continue to happen. And then what else? Livable. So a big part of my platform is supporting small businesses. And in that, I mean, most specifically, some of these small businesses that are in these rural communities that are keeping them lively and viable. And we saw in the pandemic, so many of these businesses closed because we didn't have any support, safety nets in place, because we've never had anything like this happen before. So coming back and making sure that we have ways to help folks not lose their lifelong dream because we have a pandemic or a flood. Like right before the pandemic here, where I live in Plattsmouth, we had the really bad flooding in 2019, and that also really hurt a lot of folks, displaced a lot of people out of their homes. So yeah, making sure we have safety nets in place for things like that, because a lot of the times these small businesses are what keep these communities lively. There's a small grocery store called The Market in Louisville that they took over, and I think right in 2019, and they revitalized. It's like small town grocery store, and they've done so well that they're now expanding and opening another location in Peru, which I think is really incredible. I think that is because we're not going to get these supermarkets and things into these small towns. So if we don't have community grocery stores like that, then the folks that live in these places don't have a lot of fresh food options. So I think supporting businesses and things like that into these smaller communities is a way to keep them livable. And then, yeah, I don't know, am I missing part of the question? I'm sure I'm missing part of the question. But yes, I think making sure that folks all across the state have at least somewhat of the amenities that the folks that live in the urban districts or the urban neighborhoods do, so that they can age and live out their days in their home in comfort, and it's much more affordable to do so. I think we need to give folks every opportunity to be able to do that.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Sarah.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah. As we come to the end of our meeting, I'd like to offer the final minutes to you for any closing thoughts, comments, et cetera, that you might have for your members, or our members, excuse me, and the constituents of your district. So I'll give you the remaining. We have about 5 minutes left in our time. Feel free to any closing comments you'd like to make.
Okay, well, I just remembered that the last piece was the digital literacy thing. So I think that's really, really important. We have a Southeast Community College Learning Center in downtown Plattsmouth here. I'm actually teaching a class there tonight about dip. So I teach like a lot of the food classes, but I know that they have all kinds of classes that help folks learn everything from PowerPoint, Microsoft Word, how to use accounting software, things like that. That older folks can partake in. They offer all kinds of really cool history classes, and my mom took a scrapbooking class. I think that is such a really great addition to the community that I live in, and I know that they have them kind of all over southeastern Nebraska, these learning centers. So I think making folks more aware that these exist, and that they can take classes to learn these things, and it's like a 1 night or 2 nights class, and you learn it, and yeah, pretty low cost. It's a lot of fun. I'm excited to make the dips tonight. So that, and then, so my folks are now retirement age. My dad has been the public defender in Cass County for 30 years. So he's had that really good, state health insurance, but now that he's retiring, my folks had to navigate Medicare, and had to take a class just to be able to like decipher this language and figure out what they're enrolling in. And so I think if we can make that a little bit more accessible and easy for folks to understand, I think that would be really, really helpful. Something that, it shouldn't be like reading a foreign language, just to figure out how the best thing to help you with the prescriptions that you need or whatever. So I think that, and I think Southeast offers those classes, but so I think that that's a really great service, but I also think that we need to make that the necessity of those classes maybe go away a little bit, make these things a little bit easier to navigate.
Perfect. Well, Sarah, again, we're coming to the end of our 30 minutes here. So I want to thank you again for taking the time to visit with us. We wish you the best with your campaign. And again, thank you for meeting with AARP today. Take care.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. It was my pleasure.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you,
Bye.
Sarah.
Thank you.